Update Reddit.
Doctors of Reddit, what are some of your worst experiences with anti-vaxxers? I'm not a doctor, but I'm a veterinary technician. I've had someone ask me if vaccines are going to give their dog autism. Lol, yes, your dog will be good at math and have a rough time communicating. Not a doctor, but was previously in a position where I hired RNs. One interview concluded shortly after learning that this registered nurse I was speaking with was wholeheartedly against vaccinations and went on to paint pretty much all of Western medicine as hocus pocus. I think she takes the laughter as the best medicine phrase literal. I just wanted to say, why the F did you go to school for this profession? And did you not learn a damn thing? There was an anti-vax mom who brought her kid into the ER and demanded that her kid be roomed right away and seen first because he couldn't be around all these sick kids. Imagine knowingly putting your child in danger and then demanding and feeling entitled to the best care. I'm a veterinarian. Every day I have to convince some reluctant pet owner that I'm not in the pocket of big rabies, and I'm making recommendations for preventative care based on state law, medical research and good judgment. The memorable people are the ones who listen to me. My advice saves their pet's life in one way or another, and they're still pissed about it. Your dog definitely needs a Lyme vaccine. Why? It's not perfect. Your last dog died of Lyme nephritis like 2 months ago. This vaccine is 93% effective. Some people. 19-year-old comes on a gurney, deep coma, respiratory depression, foam issuing from the lips. Mother frantic. EEG reveals the pattern typical of subacute sclerosing panencephalitis, a sequela of common measles. It's preventable, people. But not curable. They buried him a few weeks later. Yeah, I'd rather my child get sick naturally than be exposed to chemical vaccines, a parent, after I spent 10 minutes describing to her in graphic detail all of the ways preventable diseases could maim and kill her infant. I just don't get why people think that natural, in any shape or form, must automatically be good for you. The universe is under no obligation whatsoever to be nice to humans. My mom did not vaccinate me as a kid. As of 2 days ago I officially have rubella. When you're well again, get your vaccines. It's never too late to get the ones normally given in childhood. I'm not a doctor, but I do have mild autism. I made the mistake of saying that I was autistic in a public place to my friend. This lady heard and came up to ask if I was vaccinated. I said that I was, and she had the most triumphant look on her face. I realized my mistake, and left right away with my friend. Dude, I hate that. You can't magically get autism from a vaccine, and all people with autism don't have it from a vaccine. It's genetic, right? While discussing vaccines with a mom one time and bringing up my experience working with the immunocompromised population, she said, I don't care if someone else's kid has cancer. That's their problem, not mine. And that right there is a huge part of the problem, selfishness. I vaccinate my children not only for their own health, but for the health of others. Veterinarian here. Had a client years ago who bred Seleucus, and who fed raw, refused most medication cause chemicals bad, and didn't believe in vaccination. One of her dogs was exposed to parvo, and she brought it back to the kennel. She tried to treat it homeopathically herself at first, so by the time we saw it, the dog was already pretty far gone. Then the next day she brought in another sick dog. Then another the next day. 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 All in all, after $6,000 in bills, 12 beautiful dogs died of a disease she could have prevented for $120. My dad's a doctor. He told me that once a mother came into his office with her son for a checkup and he recommended that her 6-year-old get vaccinated for measles, mumps, rubella because she hadn't vaccinated him yet. Just 4 weeks later she came in with her son and he had measles. She yelled at my dad for not curing him in the hour and a half they were there. She got angry and went to the ghetto pediatrician who sold her the same medication. And later she still didn't vaccinate her son because aluminum and toxins. That's exactly how my dad said it. Went to a chiropractor one time to fix some lower back pain. They had posters all over about how harmful vaccines are and that having your back adjusted regularly, even as an infant, could help fight off those kinds of diseases. I asked the receptionist if they actually believed that, and she gave me a 10-minute lecture trying to justify it. I just looked and said, remove me from the patient list because that is the dumbest thing I have ever heard. Pharmacist here, I don't get a whole lot of pushback. Most common is a fear of needles. All of my patients are 18 or older. I have had a few loons with the mind control conspiracy and a few. Vaccines do nothing but cause problems, and I can tell you all about it. My staff and I laugh at them after they walk away. Then I die inside cause it is becoming more prevalent. I commented on a blatantly false post about vaccines on Facebook, something about mercury in vaccines I think. Now there's only mercury in the flu shot, and you can request a dose without it. She sent me an article on how God doesn't want you to vaccinate children. She said she felt like God was leading her to spread anti-vax information. Yikes. Pretty sure God would want less dead kids, but okay. If God didn't want vaccines, then he sure as hell didn't want your Botoxed lips, Karen. I'm an EMT and pro-vaccine. My ex-wife is an anti-vaxxer. We are constantly arguing about vaccinating my son, but thankfully I have custody of him so he gets his vaccines. She also thinks the government puts fluoride in the water to control our minds. Gotta make the frogs gay somehow. Child A had an absolutely horrible time with chicken pox, to the point that I thought he might not make it. So what does she do? Intentionally expose child B to it. Expose child to disease to prevent them from getting disease later. Vaccines are bad though. Medical professional, not a doctor, an MPH student here. I'm visiting my family in a rural part of the US. After a couple years of being away, explaining to them why they need their flu shots and why my 2-week-old niece should be vaccinated has become completely exhausting. I haven't got the flu shot in years and I never get sick. That's not how it works. I'm a doc and 2 months ago I'm walking out of the hospital and besides me is a woman, frantically dialing a number on her telephone. She proceeds to start yelling into her phone. They want to put all those nasty chemicals into him. They say if he's going to be in the hospital he needs to be vaccinated to protect other kids. It's poison. I'm going to take him somewhere else. When we got to the sidewalk she immediately reached into her purse and pulled out a cigarette and started smoking. I just stood there watching her yell about poisonous chemicals in vaccines while she puffed furiously on a cigarette. You honestly can't make this up. Dental student here. I had to kick a parent out of my operatory for wanting to make sure I'm not trying to vaccinate her child. I was only checking for cavities. What the F is a dental student going to vaccinate against? Tooth decay. After reading all these, I am completely in favor of a law that would find parents guilty of manslaughter if their child dies from a disease that they weren't vaccinated for because of the parent's decision not to. I'm not a doctor but a nurse and had a whole family with measles and they blamed the government and Obama for their illnesses. Thanks Obama. Asked a patient who had a few IVs connected for an infection and asked if she wanted a couple vaccines. She said, no way. I have no idea what are in those things. I don't even think she remembered what IVs she was getting. I met a nurse who is an anti-vaxxer. The reason is they're not 100% safe. I said no medicine is 100% safe. Their response was, then they shouldn't be on the market. I asked if that includes ibuprofen. They said yes. This nurse is not only anti-vaccine but anti-medicine. It was very disturbing. I got slapped by a mom for disagreeing with her course of action. Please elaborate. This sounds like a crazy story. The dental version of anti-vax is anti-fluoride. I had a patient in school that was super anti-fluoride and state he had been researching fluoride before I was born. When I asked him what school he went to, he stated he did his research on his own. One day I was doing a crown on this patient and he was gagging every few seconds. I stop and ask him if he is okay and he stated, "It's the fluoride in this water. It is choking me." This was nano-pure deionized water, so I told him, "Sir, there is no fluoride in this water. It is reverse osmosis deionized." Even with copious amounts of water he did not gag again.